Many of you are wondering why we did a beating of the bounds this morning. It's an odd service. It's an old and ancient service. It comes from our ancestry in England, where the parish was not just a church building and the property that the building sat on, but a parish was a geographic location and included all the people who lived within that parish. It was important to know the boundaries of the parish, because if you lived within the boundaries of a parish, then you had certain rights in that church. That church had to marry you if you asked, bury you if you asked, baptize you if you asked. They were your church, whether you walked in the doors once, twice, 100 times, never, they were your church. Also, some of the taxes that you would pay went to help the church. We don't have that structure here. And so instead, what we do when we beat the bounds of our parish is we go and we look out into the community and we say, as a church, we exist to serve the world. We exist to serve our community both locally and globally. We're to reach out to others who are in need and meet those needs as best we can. We go to another station. As a church, we exist to be good stewards of the earth. Our purpose is to make sure that we use the resources of the world rightly, not overusing, not underusing, but making sure that the cycle that has been created can replenish itself over and over again for ages to come. And we come to a third station. We say, as a church, we exist to be a place of reconciliation, of Christian formation, of spiritual growth. Our purpose is to make sure that the people of God have a place they can come and gather and worship and learn and be filled so they can go out back to Station 1 and look out at the world. Because as a church, we exist to live in this cycle of outreach, being good stewards of the earth, of coming back to be refilled so we can go out again and continue to serve. As a church, we must do all these things because that's what it means to be the church. And if we are not doing these things, then we are not doing what we were put here to do. Today is the first official Sunday of our stewardship season. And so, what does this mean in terms of stewardship? It means, quite frankly, that we can't exist as a church if we're not doing those things. And we can't do those things if you're not doing them. And so I'm up here this morning to say, as a church, we're not a building. We're not a property. We are a people gathered together. And if just one of you is not with us, then the church is less than it is with you. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm urging you to participate in the body of Christ. To participate in this great and sacred mystery that we have been given. And participate any way you can. Maybe you can participate financially. You can make a pledge that will give money to the church, that will help keep the building intact, keep the lights on, the electricity going, and continue to pay for the upkeep so we have a physical place we can gather. Maybe that's something you do. Maybe you'll serve on some committee that will help run the administrative aspect of the church. Maybe you will go and you will reach out to our community in the name of the church and be a part of that vital outreach that is a huge part of our identity. Maybe you will serve as a worship leader, as a member of the choir, or as an acolyte, or a verger, a chalice bearer. However you choose to do it, there are so many ways you can participate in the life of the church. And I urge you to participate, because it's so vitally important that the church exists. And if you don't think that's true, take a look at the world around us. Take a look at the news that's been going on the past few weeks, months, years, decades, centuries. The world needs the church. Whether the people will admit it or not, the world needs a place that will make sure that everyone is treated justly, that people have access to the basic needs of life. And where people don't have access, we need to be seeking ways to provide their needs, either through changing the systems and structures that are in place, or by simply going there and doing the work ourselves. The world needs a place where when you mess up, you can come and gather and know that God still loves you, despite the mistakes you have made. In this morning's gospel lesson, we hear a lot about wealth and rich people. And I don't know about you, but I like to hear these verses from Scripture and say, oh, well, they're not talking about me. I'm not rich. I don't have a whole lot of wealth. I just upgraded to a new car earlier this year. This brand new to me car that is 10 years old and is 10 years newer than my previous car. You can't go out and just buy a brand new car. I don't have that kind of money. I live in a townhouse. I don't own my own home. I don't have a whole lot of possessions to my name. When Jesus is talking about rich people and wealthy people, he's referring to someone that's not me. But then earlier this week, someone showed me this thing called the Global Wealth Calculator, where you can put in your annual income and see how that compares to the rest of the world. So I figured, well, this will be fun. We'll see what this means, thinking maybe I'm going to be like in the top 75% or something like that. So I enter my annual income, and wouldn't you know it, on a global scale, I am within the top 0.5% of richest people on this planet. When Jesus is talking about people who are rich and wealthy, he's talking about me. He's talking about you. He's talking about us. And that's scary, because what he's saying about the rich is that attaining eternal life, getting into heaven, is impossible. It'll be easier to fit a camel through the eye of a needle than for us to attain eternal salvation. Now, because when we're people who are rich, we get a bit uncomfortable, we try to make up stories and analogies. Well, there was this rock formation that existed in that area. It was very hard to get a camel up this rock formation. And there was this great arch, and it was called the Eye of the Needle. And it would be difficult, but not impossible, but really difficult to get this camel through there. So what Jesus is saying is that it's really hard to get in heaven. But if you make enough sacrifices, you can still do it. No, but there is no such rock formation in that area. Well, maybe he's talking about this giant gate in Jerusalem. This gate that would open to let all kinds of tradespeople come through, but it had a smaller door inside of it because it was so difficult to open this huge gate that maybe if you just wanted to let one or two people in, you'd open this small door. And those are called Eye of the Needle gates. And so maybe that's what Jesus was referring to. Well, no, there is no Eye of the Needle gate in Jerusalem. The truth is, when it comes to talking about money and wealth and privilege. We don't like it because it makes us uncomfortable. But the truth is, Jesus is saying it is impossible for us to attain eternal salvation. But thanks be to God that with God, all things are possible. Being a church is an impossible task. Reaching out to a hurting world and meeting all of the needs that exist is an impossible task. Making sure that everyone is rightly using the resources of earth is an impossible task. Being a place where everyone feels welcome, where everyone knows the love of God, where everyone's soul is fed, is an impossible task. But one that we are called to anyway. And thanks be to God that though we cannot do it ourselves, with God all things are possible. So again, my prayer for you is that you participate in this impossible church, this impossible gathering of the body of Christ. Because without you, the church simply does not exist. So participate in this wonderful, sacred mystery. Reach out to the community that's hurting and needs to know God's love. Look to the world and see what can be done to restore the cycle of life that has been created so that the earth may renew itself. Participate in coming and joining other members of the body of Christ to worship our God and Creator, to have your souls renewed so you are strengthened to go back out and serve the world. Participate in this as fully as you can. If you can give money to it so that it can continue financially, great. If you can be a body that is out there doing the work, great. If you can gather together on Sunday morning to be with us, to let us know that we're not in this alone, and that there is something greater than ourselves at work in our world, wonderful. However you choose to participate, I hope you devote all of that aspect of your life to it. Because the church is important, and it's impossible. But if you participate, you will see that with God, all things are possible. All the needs of the world will be met. We'll have that new Jerusalem that was spoken of in the book of Revelation, where there is no crying, there is no death, there is no hunger, there is no thirst. There is only us existing together in perfect harmony as God created it to be. There is only the kingdom of God. And only if you choose to participate in it. Amen.
Amen.
We're professionals. Don't try this at home.
On this episode of Mythbusters, biblical myths. Can a camel fit through the eye of a needle?
That's not good. All right, so I guess that myth is busted.